and for the warm welcome and the hospitality which I received. I am overwhelmed. I am also overwhelmed by the kind introduction and the hospitality by both the dignitaries who are sitting here and also the Vice Chancellor of the University. I am also thankful to Professor Dr. Manorama and Department of Zoology, the other faculty, for inviting me to be here to discuss few aspects which are commonly experienced by each one of us. How do we use the brain? Is a fundamental question. So how much we use the brain? Why we need to use the brain? If you don't use the brain, then what happens? If you use it more or if you use it less, does it change your behavior? Does it change your personality? Does it drive us into a neurological or psychiatric disorders? These are all some of the common issues which are pertaining to us every day as the teachers, as the students. How can I improve my memory? How can I do better? How do I listen to the teacher? By paying enough attention in the classroom. Or you read less and you understand better. Or you read more, do you understand much better? Do you pay enough attention to the teachers while they are teaching? These are all basic and fundamental questions. How do we survive? How do we live? And what is the purpose of your survival in this whole world? These are all basic fundamental questions which is pertaining to everybody, not only to the educated population. To test that, how do we know and how much we need to keep our brain intact? Positive approaches. Each one of that helps us to be healthy human beings. So no longer we have to keep our heart and kidney and the liver in healthy condition. All of these, whole body is regulated by the brain. So if your brain is normal, the rest is taken care. Your heart diseases, your liver diseases, your the kidney diseases, everything is driven by the brain. Many of us, we don't think that way. If our brain is healthy, you take care of your stress responses and your cardiac dysfunctions as well. We'll try to understand a lot more about that. I thought that considering the fact that we have a lot of biology students, both at undergraduate and graduate students, I thought that I will take you how a simple forms of behaviors in and around you change somebody's brain circuitry, and is it possible to restore it back? These are all some fundamental and basic questions which we need to answer. So as the Dean sir said, I'll be talking about ever-changing brain. So you're going to be wondering actually, so once we are born, what is going to be changed? The size of the body will change and our colors will change significantly. The way we talk and with the way our behaviors are elicited changes. But how does the brain changes? This might be the question which you have. To test your brain, I want to just give a small puzzle to you. There is a white background. On that you have some dark patches. Can you identify any object which is familiar to you? Dog. Dog. Anything else other than dog? Do you identify anything? In reality, there is no dog as such. An object which is familiar to you, a dalmated dog, looks something like, somewhat like this. You have an image which is formed in your brain. Now, when I ask you, can you identify an object which is hidden there? In reality, there is no dog as such, but you perceived that there is a dog. If I take out this portion, this is the head, these are the forelimbs, and this is the hind limb. Kind of structure. That means, even an object which is familiar to you, even if I provide a partial information about that object, the brain identifies with some meaning. How does this happen? How does it happen? So it's only few of you have identified that there is a Dalmatian dog. So many of you are still scratching your head. There is a dog. So in reality there is no dog as such. So this clearly indicates that even if you provide a partial information about an object which is familiar to you, the brain processes that information very quickly to identify an object with a meaning associated with that. Till I projected this slide in your brain, you never thought that, okay, I am going to ask this question. So how much time did it take? 3 of you it took maybe less than a second. It's a fraction of a second. How does this happen? To answer that this is a Dalmatian dog, this is a simple brain circuitry which was involved in eliciting a response from you that there is a Dalmatian dog. This is simplest circuitry. Each one of these blocks are the different regions of the brain, different blocks of the brain. Don't worry about this. This is the simplest circuitry. So when we talk about the cognition or the higher functions, you should imagine that how many more neural circuitry is involved. How complex is the brain circuitry? That also limits in terms of understanding our brain. The Einstein said it, you can understand the whole cosmos, but we may not be able to understand the human brain in totality. So what we know today is only about 20% of the brain regions which are labeled that this particular region of the brain is associated with a particular function. But the rest of them we really don't know. That limits us to even to develop therapies or the treatments because we have not understood completely the brain. Since we know completely the heart or a liver or a kidney, you can transplant them and you can revive the abnormal behaviors or abnormal functions associated with diseases. But in brain disorders, there is no complete cure for many of the disorders as of now which is existing. You will understand why so. Now, this is the human brain. You have the visual information. When I flashed the picture, you had a visual information from the eyes reaching into the brain. When I asked the question, you had an auditory information. Sound was reaching into the brain, this portion of the brain. And everything was put together and you spoke dog made dog. So you had a whole lot of brain regions which was involved in solving this simple task. You might be wondering, identifying a dog which is familiar to us, what is the big deal about it? When it comes to the brain disorders or the abnormality, then it becomes a big deal for us. Now, you have the surface of the brain. This is the surface of the brain. Different regions are labeled in the surface what functions it does. You have the visual information comes here. Your reading happens here. Your somatosensory means, your touch, pain and everything is perceived from the different parts of our body, internally as well as externally reaching into this region. And you have the perception of that information and you have the commands are originated. How much my hand should be moving and how much my leg should move. All the movement is controlled by this region, is called the motor cortex. And this region is very, very unique. What makes us to different from the rest of the species, the animal species in the world, including our cousins, the chimpanzees or monkeys, is that you have a maximum development of this region. It's called as the character cortex. The frontal cortex is also called as the character cortex. It decides our do's and don'ts. The brain will say that you are irritated with your colleague, but you cannot shout inside the office. But if it is a corridor, your response is different. If it is in a street, your behavior is different to the same individual for the same question, same problem. The frontal cortex, this guy will tell that it will identify do's and don'ts, and your responses and your behaviors are regulated by this region of the brain. That means the way we are as a human beings, our characters are decided and determined by the activity in this region of the brain. When we lose the activity in this region, then we are no different than the animals. The monkeys can do whatever they want, wherever they want. But the humans, we don't do the certain acts. We know the environment. All the time, our behaviors are controlled and regulated by the environment in which we live. That is determined by the frontal cortex, called as the character cortex. Now, how do we identify different functions? How does the brain regulate the different functions of our body functions? The brain controls almost all functions. How much I should breathe, how much the heart should function, how much the blood should supply to the rest of the body and also including brain, and how much food I should eat, when I should sleep, what should I do? Everything, all our body functions are regulated by the brain. So it's all centrally regulated. Your head decides what needs to be done, how your functions have to be done. Within the brain, each one of these regions, they are specialized, engineered to process the different set of information by using the different building blocks. They are called as neurons. These are the neurons. A neuron which is like this, which is responsible for your learning as well as the memory formation. A neuron like this, which is responsible for information processing about do's and don'ts in this region. And you have a cell which is present here, so that determines actually how do I perceive the different sensations from the body. That's in this region, the thalamus. Like that, you have a wonderful engineering of the whole brain, which is designed to process the different sets of information very precisely, eliciting the meaningful responses at all the time, even while you are sleeping. Wonderful. It appears extremely interesting to us. Very interestingly, the kind of activity which is generated in the brain, it is two forms. One is the electrical signals, like your electrical cables. You have the cables within your brain. They generate the electrical activity. The amount of electrical activity generated from one neuron, one cell to the other cell, both of them determine your behavior as such. So you have a cell which is present here, the cortex, the sensory cortex. You have the electrical signals are generated like this. You have a cell which is present here, it regulates the electrical activity, something like this. And you have the cells which are present here, they generate the different kinds of signals at different levels. It's like morning, afternoon and evening. The same cells, same neurons in the brain, they generate the different signals at different requirements. When you are very fresh in the first class, your activity will be like this. By third class, your activity will be like this. By evening, it becomes fatigue. Irrespective of how interesting is the topic taught by your teacher, you are unable to concentrate. You are unable to transform the memories, the short-term memories to the long-term memories. That clearly indicates that does the brain also go for a fatigue? Like your muscles undergo fatigue. So you have the state of mind. The state of mind is determined by the way the electrical activities are generated in the brain each time. Same neurons, morning till night, it fires at a different levels. The different level of electrical activity is generated. Accordingly, our moods, our behavior, our do's and don'ts are determined by the brain. Now, the fundamental question is that why can't we treat all the diseases associated with the brain? You have a neurological disorder or the psychiatric disorder. A neurological disorders, it may be Parkinson's disease where the motor functions are affected. It may be stroke, the blood has been occluded in the brain and that is associated with the paralysis. Then you also have the neurodegenerative diseases. All of us has to age. Like our body ages, the brain also should age. And that is a natural phenomenon. The clock is set at the moment we are born. No, we have to die. But when you are going to die, that is determined by the activity of the brain. Now, why we are not able to address most of the diseases which are fatal in nature as of today? Because of the complex organization of the brain itself. We are unable to understand the brain in totality. Why it is so? There is a simple fact about the brain organization. You have trillion neurons in the human brain. cells, the nerve cells are called as neurons. So you have a trillion neurons are there, and each one of these nerve cells, they receive the connectivity, ranges between 10,000 to 2 lakh connections. One cell, one nerve cell can receive between 10,000 to 2 lakh connections. You might be wondering how it is possible. The one cell can handle so many connections. The reason is that a cell which is present in the middle of my brain, which can connect to the rest of the brain regions, including the spinal cord, which controls all our movement and which perceives the sensations from different parts of our body. Then, what's most important is the speed in which the information is processed. You have electrical cables are laid down from one neuron to the other neuron. They are called as the axons. The speed in which the communication is conveyed, which ranges between 10 to 100 meters per second. In a second, you have an 100-meter speed. The electrical connections are established very quick. And most importantly, if you take all the trillion neurons, you organize them into A, B, C, D like that in a serial connection, you have about 10 to the power of 8 meters. That is about 15 times the radius of the earth. So what is the radius of the earth? $400. 6,400. Anybody else? Do you know what is the radius of the earth? So you have 6,378, then 6,400 kilometers is the radius, and 15 times is the radius of the earth. The connectivity or the cables are there in your brain. Can you ever imagine what is the complexity of the circuitry? And the speed and also the connectivity what we have in our human brain is extremely unique. And the supercomputer which is available in the India at supercomputer facility in the Indian Institute of Science is called as Paramatma. Paramatma is the supercomputer facility what we have. Whatever the speed into 10,000 times is the speed in which your brain processes the information. How does that happen? Because the neurons are connected both serially as well as parallelly. Even though you are sitting here and gracefully listening to me, but you have several thoughts are happening in your brain. That means you are physically present here, your eyes are wide open, and you are showing a lot of interest because you are smiling at me. So that clearly indicates that you are showing an interest in my topic, what I am going to teach. But in your brain, there are several thoughts are happening simultaneously. So you have a serial and parallel connections are responsible for processing more than one set of information at any given point of time. This is extremely unique to the human brain or to the other brains. So even from Drosophila brain, you have the same features. The human brain also you have the same features. This makes us very, very difficult to understand the organization of the brain itself. We have not understood the organization of the brain in totality. What we know about 30%, remaining 70% of the brain, we really don't know how does the information is processed. Now, as the child is born, by then the maturation of the brain is completed. Okay. So when the child is born, the brain weighs about 900 grams. When the child weighs about 3 kilos. If a child weighs about 3 kilos, the brain weight is 900 grams. By the age of 15, you are going to add another 300 grams. So it's only 2% of the body weight is the weight of the brain that controls most of our functions, including the cognition. So as the maturation happens, the connectivity is there. It's all refined as and when the child develops the different sensory and motor capabilities, including the cognitive abilities. This is what is shown here. The 5-year-old and this one. Look at the color. The color indicates that if you have a more yellow to blue, a dark blue, that indicates that there is a maturation of connections in the human brain happens, and that maturation happens up to 20 years. Till 20 years, that's why we behave like monkeys. The reason is that we are very, very positive about everything. Everything is novel for you. You are exploratory in nature. After 20 years, you know that what is do's and don'ts. So for that, the maturation of the brain, the character cortex, requires so much time. That's why the experience decides our behavior. Why you have to listen to your teacher or to your parents? They are older than you. They have the experience has taught their brain to take a decisions which is useful for you. So better you listen to your teachers. Okay. How does all this happen? This is a single neuron which is controlling my movements. This is a neuron, a nerve cell. The cell body is there and processes are there. Each one of these processes, they have this kind of a connection. The communication between one nerve cell to the other nerve cell determines our behaviors. That is responsible. The communication between neurons determines the intelligence of an individual. There is no difference between your brain, my brain, Einstein's brain, Abdul Kalam's brain. All the brains, if I take it and grade it, when I do the biochemistry, so you have the same composition. What is so different between your brain and your colleague's brain? Is the connectivity. Some people, they use effectively their brain regions for eliciting a differential responses, differential behaviors. Some people, we don't do. So that is only the difference. The connectivity determines our functions. Now, this is what is happening. You have one nerve cell talking to the other cell. One cell can communicate that information, process the information to multiple neurons. And when it conveys the information, you have a whole set of biochemical machinery. They are called as the neurotransmitters. These chemicals are responsible for enhancing the activity on this neuron, thereby generating the electrical signals. So you have the communication from one nerve cell to the other nerve cell by electrical and the chemical waves. All our drugs, whatever you are taking for the therapy for various neurological and psychiatric disorders, they are all targeted to these chemicals. The chemical transmission. How much the transmission should be there from year to year? How much it has to communicate? How quickly it has to communicate? How fast it has to communicate the information? And how many neurons it has to be communicating? One cell can communicate to multiple cells, and each one of them can differentially regulate the different functions which is being performed. How does this happen? How does all this happen? If brain is rigid, the moment the child is born, the connections are established. And after that, if it does not change, then there is no scope for us to learn anything. Very interesting, no? As the child born, after that, till our death, we will keep on learning. That means something extremely unique about the brain compared to rest of our body. The moment I become 20 years, my height is determined, my color is determined, and my breadth is determined. It will be keep increasing in any case. So those are variables, the physical variables. But the brain, you have the circuitry, it seems to be reasonably fixed. Certain regions of the brain it is fixed, but certain regions of the brain it is not fixed, which will help us to understand, which will help us to learn the things. That is called as plasticity. It's like a plastic that can be molded into any form. Brain is the only organ of our body which can be flexible throughout our life. From birth till death, you can keep changing the circuitry. The electrical connections can be keep changing depending on which kind of lights you want to use it, which power you want to use, whether you want to have a bigger cable or a smaller cable, that determines the strength of your information processing ability. The same thing is true in the human brain as well. That is called as the neural plasticity. So the brain is ever changing. The topic what I am discussing is the brain is ever changing. From birth till death, it will be keep changing as and when we learn things, as and when we learn from the environment. It will be keep changing. So that happens with the involvement of multiple levels of neural organization. A particular behavior is elicited with the multiple brain centers, and each one of these centers are specialized designed like a microchips. You have a small microchips, like in your computer board. If anybody has seen the computer board, Inside, there are so many connections are there. Each one of those connections are designed to process different aspects of the functionary of your computer. Like that, you have a small microchip, and you have the connections between one cell to the other cell like this, and the connections are established with the electrical and the chemical connections. And then you have a whole lot of biochemical machinery where the drug designing and drug targets are determined. That's the membrane, ion channels and other things. You have a specific genes which are responsible for eliciting the actions in the brain by modifying it. So you have a specific gene circuitry which is there when the child is born. After that, the environment will be keep changing the genes. So 50% is the genes. Our parents have determined our body and also the brain. But how to use your brain and body, that is determined by your environment. The genes can be changed. So 50% is the genes, 50% is your environment. Who is your good friend, who is your bad friend? That determines your brain functions and brain activity, ultimately the behavior. So all this happens because of the plastic nature of the brain. Does this plasticity exist uniformly across the different regions of the brain? That is the next question. It doesn't. It doesn't happen throughout the brain. In a spinal cord, you might have noticed your teachers or your parents or your colleagues or your brothers or sisters, each one will have a different posture. That remains unique actually. So even if somebody is walking far away from you, just by looking at the posture and the movement, the way they walk, we can identify them. It becomes quite rigid. But the behaviors are variable. Each one of us. Morning our mood is different, the behaviors are different. Afternoon it's different, and evening it's different. And also whose face you look at, whom you like or you don't like. Accordingly, your behaviors will change instantly. Within no time, your behaviors change. How does that happen? That is because the activity in the different regions of the brain. One such region is extremely important for our survival because it is involved in learning as well as the memory. So what is learning? Learning is the process in which the new knowledge is acquired, acquisition of new information. And you have another component, it is called as the memory. Memory is the retention of learned information, storage of that information. So you have a learning and memory, both of that happens by experience. One such structure is called as the hippocampus, which is shown in yellow here. So you have the different regions, different behaviors are elicited with the involvement of the hippocampus. This structure all the time interacts with the external world. This is responsible for knowing about the facts and events. What is the text content? What is its relevance? If that topic is interesting to you, and if the teacher says that this is extremely important from the point of examination, immediately you will take out your notebook and you start making the notes. That means our survival itself is based on the reward, based on the relevancy. And if I tell that this is a public lecture, there is nothing to be worried, and this is for your information, what you will do? The open book will be closed and put inside your bag. You see the relevance? So everything happens based on the relevance. Our survival itself is based on the relevance. And you have this guy, he's all the time interacting with the external world to know about the facts and events which is happening. And also to know about the faces. How do we remember the faces? You need to know about the faces. And also you need to know about the places. How do I reach Ravenshaw University every day? First time when you come, you will ask, where is Ravenshaw University? Where is Dean's office? Where is Vice Chancellor's office? Where is the particular department? The next time what you do is, you use some kind of a cues. You use the cues. Where is the department of psychology? It is next to the zoology department. There is a tree. You see, that is a map for me. So you have the formation of spatial maps. The maps, the external world is mapped in your brain with the involvement of hippocampus. So that means one particular structure in the brain from our birth till death seems to be extremely important, and it is highly susceptible for various brain disorders. Whether you take a neurological disorders or psychiatric disorders, this guy undergoes changes. I'll give a simple example today. Even though we work on a very, very complex neurological and psychiatric disorders, like a depression or a schizophrenia, or it may be stroke or epilepsy, the seizures, the fits is called as epilepsy, and various other disorders. But it becomes extremely important for us to understand this region. This seems to be involved in most of the brain disorders. And one such simple task or the simple environment, how does it alter our brain circuitry, which I am going to explain, is the stress. And I will not talk about the complex brain disorders. How is stress can alter your brain circuitry? How it can alter your behavior? Very soon. How quickly it can alter your behavior when you are in a stressful situation. Every day, little bit of stress is very, very useful. The acute stress is always useful. That prepares our body and also the brain for the consequences of the stress. If your director is called or if your HOD is called to his office or her office, you will assume, you will keep guessing. Yesterday I have not done well in the examination, what will be the consequences, and you will prepare yourself to face the consequences. So, that is extremely important. Or before going to an examination, you will see that, okay, there is more sweating happens, your heart rate increases. This is to prepare your brain and also to the body that you have to write an examination well. This is an acute response to prepare for coping up from the stress. Examination is a stress, certainly. So for that, the brain and the body both will prepare. But if the stress is severe in nature, if you have a severe form of stress, every day you undergo the same stress. Whether it may be work related, whether it may be related to your studies, or it may be related to your family, or it may be related to the place or with the people who are in and around you, your friends. Each one of them are the stressors. They are the factors which determines your well-being. Each one of them can change. What is interesting is that the stress is a condition which seriously perturbs physiological and psychological movement. It's not only your body responses, your breathing increases, your heart rate increases, and your feeding responses will affect, and your sleep will be different, altered. In addition to that, you have the psychological. When you are stressed, you are more irritated. The anxiety levels goes up. Even for the small things, you show your anger, and your responses will be different. How does that happen? Because the brain undergoes some kind of a change which leads into a deleterious effect, causing into the anxiety, or it may be even the aging phenomenon. I'll give some of the experimental evidences how stress can alter your brain circuitry in an abnormal fashion, which drives you into a disease condition. When the stress is for a long period of time, it is inescapable. So your boss is irritating every day, and it is inescapable. Either you have to leave the job, or you have to adjust with him and work. And when you go home, you have the same situation. Your spouse might be stressed, or your children might be stressed, or your parents might be stressed, or your own colleague who is working with you might be stressed, or your own friend might be stressed. All of them are stressors. One need to be extremely careful because the brain, all of these guys are changing your brain for the bad. If it is happening for every day. This is what happens. This is a rat hippocampus. Take a slice of hippocampus, and the cells which are present over here, they die every time you are exposed to a chronic stress. The nerve cells in the brain, they undergo degeneration when you are exposed for a long period of stress, any kind of stress. Then, the nerve cell shrinks like this. This is a normal healthy nerve cell in the hippocampus, and it dies like this. Look at here. It lost most of its connectivity. Its connections have been lost. Each one of these buttons, they are called as the dendritic spines, where the communication between one cell to the other cell is happening. Those connections have been lost. When the connections have been lost, the brain's ability to process that information is also lost. Look at here. This cell communicates to this one, the processed information reaches to this cell and this cell to here, and then a particular behaviors are elicited. You will find that changes flow. That's what happens. So what we do is, we have a complex electrophysiological setup to identify how the neural circuitry is altered in live condition. As and when these animals are behaving, as and when the subjects, let's say human subjects, when they are performing the different tasks at the different levels of its behavior, we record the activity directly from the brain. What you observe is that every time you learn something which is novel, which is new to you, which is relevant for you, you have the enhanced electrical activity in the hippocampus. That is the small yellow region which I showed you. The activity increases depending on how long and how much the activation is there. That translates the short-term memories to the long-term memories. So many of us within the classroom, everything you feel that, okay, I understood everything, wonderful teacher, and what the topic was excellent. The moment you go out, by afternoon, 50% is died. By the time you reach the home, and yeah, it was a nice factor, but I don't remember any contents. Why so? You see that you feel that in the classroom you know everything, and you perceive that you know everything, the content was really good, but it is not staying in your brain because initially you had an activity, enhanced activity, but after that there is no transformation of short-term memories to the long-term memory has happened in the hippocampus, in the brain. That's very true. That is impaired. Somebody who is stressed for a long period of time, there is no sustained activation. Can you see here? Before coming to the class, during the class, beginning of the class and the end of the class, the activity is the same. That means physically you are present here with your eyes open, but unfortunately nothing has registered the contents what I spoke to you. That happens while you are in stressful situation. When you are stressed, you are not able to register whatever you have learned. That is a very serious concern for all of us. Now, how do we test all these things? It becomes extremely difficult until unless we use all these experimental manipulations, brain surgeries, recording the activity from the nerve cells in the different regions of the brain, while the animals are performing the different tasks. In humans, it becomes extremely difficult. We cannot bring someone and do the surgery and put the electrodes or the wires into the brain and record. But one needs to use the different kinds of animal models which mimic certain brain disorders, neurological or psychiatric disorders. And one such behavior which is extremely useful is to assess the hippocampal function, which is called as a Morris water image. You have a pool of water, there is a hidden platform, there is a cube. It's like first time I enter into this hall, there are all the doors, they look alike to me. I don't know which is the exit because there is no exit sign in this hall. Have you ever noticed that there is no exit sign in this hall? All the doors alike. I don't know how to escape when there is a threat. How do you do it? I remember that there are three on the back, the middle one is the exit. I make a correlation, spatial map is formed. Because I entered from that place, I should remember that I can go out from the same door. That's a spatial map. Such kind of a spatial map or the spatial orientation is lost when we are in stressful situation. Here is a movie clip for you. This is a pool of water. There is a camera hidden somewhere. And here is a hidden platform. The rat cannot see. And there is a small checkerboard kind of structure that the rest of the hall is the same, but one place it is different, distinct. The rat will keep swimming like this. It doesn't explore. If you don't know which way to enter, then what you will do, you will go and verify each and every door, which way to I should just exit. So for that it will just explore. Then accidentally it touches the top of this one. It will go and sit there. You allow this guy to explore. Like me, when I entered here, I looked at this beautiful structure here. It's a natural phenomenon. When you go to the new place, you explore. You can make out actually whether this person has first time he is coming to that place or he has already come. So, exploration is a natural instinct behavior of all animal kingdom, including us. We explore. This guy goes there and he will explore. And the second day or third day when I put him, what he does is, if I put him here or here or here, look at this way, right away he will go there. He will not swim everywhere. It's like a third time when I come to Ravenshaw, I know that where is the heritage hall. Right away I come here. I will not ask anybody. How do I do it? We associate the things with the external world. This is what is impaired in Alzheimer's disease. Each one of us, we have our old parents or old people in and around. They don't relate the things that well. Then that becomes a disease condition. In an Alzheimer's disease, every time you have to tell them, this is the exit, this is your restroom, this is your bedroom, this is your dining hall. Like that we have to do it. So it becomes extremely difficult. So these individuals within the house, they have to depend on somebody for their day-to-day activities. And that leads into a depressive state. The old people, if they are irritated, that is very, very common because they cannot live by themselves. So that's why they need assistance from each one of you. Please think that way. Okay? Why the old people are irritated with you or with your acts is that they cannot independently do the acts of their survival within the limitation of their territory. That's why they get irritated. But if you are positive, if you are supportive, and they feel extremely good, you have to keep all that in mind. This is what happens. This is in the normal one. If you train them 2-3 days and they learn like this, and the individuals who are stressed or suffering from different diseases, irrespective of the training, they won't be able to learn that quickly. They take more time to learn. So that means they need more time to learn certain tasks which are extremely important. So that gives us a window for us for the therapy. That means eventually they learn. See here? Eventually they learn. They might do more mistakes, but if you keep on training them, probably they also do well. They might take more time. This indicates that the brain is plastic in nature. So somebody who is dumb can also be changed if you have a perseverance, if you know the strategy which you have to adopt. Or even if you put them into a very complex situation, everything looks alike, but still they have to use their frontal cortex. I told you, the front of the brain, here, it's called the frontal cortex is required for certain kinds of behaviors. Even if you have a complex task, okay, like solving the puzzles, most of the kids which they do in the computer, which we cannot solve them, because the kind of strategies the kids use is multifactorial and multitasking. So multiple tasks are performed by each one of them very quickly. So that kind of a task can also be designed. Everything is uniform, but it's like going to a big shopping mall and all shops they look alike. Or if you go to a big parking lot, okay, you have 2,000 cars are parked and you should know each one of the pillars where you parked it. How do you do it? It's not the spatial map. Irrespective of the spatial map, you have the uniformity of the pillars and everything. How do you identify? How do you remember? So you remember obviously your car number, and second thing is you remember how many pillars later is your car is parked. Those are all the working memories, the strategies which we have to use. Even those strategies are affected while we are in a stressful situation. Those strategies are affected. Very interestingly, there are certain chemicals which are released in the brain is also affected. There is a low levels of two of the neurochemicals, they are called the dopamine and acetylcholine. These two are extremely important. One drives us to learn, that is the dopamine, and one makes us to remember, that is the acetylcholine. Both of these neurotransmitters, these neurochemicals, they significantly go down. And what is most important is the recent discovery is that even in the adult brain, if you are learning something, there are new cells formed. New neurons are formed in your brain. New cells are formed. We never thought that once the brain is formed, it is so rigid there is no further addition of the newer cells, like in any other cells. The skin, if it is cut, you have the formation of new cells, the scar is removed and there is a regrowth happens. But in the brain, it doesn't happen that easily. It doesn't happen all over the brain, it happens only in the hippocampus and neighboring regions, especially in the hippocampus, because that is all the time interacting with the environment. That region, when you are in a stressful situation, only within the hippocampus, this small region, in humans, roughly between 8,000 to 10,000 cells are added every day, depending on your activity. How much you use, how much you learn, accordingly, it ranges between the 8,000 cells to 1 lakh cells. That means your behaviors and your learning determines how much new connections need to be established in your brain. I think these things you will never know. How dynamically you are altering your own brain for your own good. All that is happening. The ability of the brain to form the new cells decreases significantly. And these guys, these are the new cells which are formed in the brain when we image them in a live condition. And the ability of the formation of newer cells significantly decreases. Let me summarize here. What I spoke to you is that one simple behavioral component which could alter the brain circuitry at all the levels, at the cognition level, at your behavior, learning and memory is impaired when you are exposed to the stress for a long period. You have the degeneration of the neuronal cells. The connectivity is altered. The information processing ability is altered. And then the overall neurochemistry is altered. Specific genes are also altered. That means one could understand the brain functions at all the levels of neural organization. If you are a geneticist, you are going to look at here. If you are a biophysicist, you are going to look at here. If you are an electrophysiologist, you are going to look at here. And if you are going to a computer engineer, you are going to look at here. And if you are a cognitive psychologist or a social sciences person, you are going to look into this one. And somebody who is going to study about the cognition, a cognitive psychologist, neurobiologist or neurologist, they will look at here. This clearly indicates that there is a scope for each one of us to contribute for the greater understanding of the brain. How much time I have? I think I am almost done. Okay. So, have you understood what I spoke to you? Okay. Extremely simple, no technical aspects which I shared with you. So, each and every brain is altering. And the next question is that, I will not take much time, but I will just run through that, is that, are these deficits reversible? This is where the therapy and treatment comes into the picture. This is what I am interested in. Whether it's the children or the adulthood, and each one of us, we undergo to the different levels of our brain activity, abnormal brain activity that causes implications. And it becomes extremely important for us to correct ourselves. Brain is the only structure which is highly adaptable to the environment, which can readjust its activity by itself. There is a natural way of correcting by itself. If you stretch that further, if you have that perturbation for a long period of time, then the readjustment or reorganization or remodeling of the neural circuitry naturally by itself is compromised. At that stage, the intervention or the treatment or the therapy has to be done. So for that, one needs to develop different kinds of strategies. There are multiple strategies. I will not be able to deal with each one of them in a greater detail. Maybe later on at some point of time when I visit you again, maybe we will talk about only one particular disease condition and then we can go into the little more detail. How do you design a drug? Everything is done by the biologist. Everything is done by the psychologist. Everything is done by the computer scientist. And everybody contributes for understanding the brain. One could understand. So few of such strategies is, you know that exactly the brain activity is significantly decreased. Why can't I do a surgery? put the wire into the brain, stimulate that brain pathway, and I can correct it. That's one approach. I will not have much time to take you through. What I have done is, many years back, I was studying in monkeys how different kinds of addictive drugs activate the different regions of the brain. So what I used to do is, do a surgery, put a small capillary into the brain. Every time the animal presses the liver, it delivers its own drug by itself. Cocaine, morphine or anything like that. It activates the certain regions of the brain and you become addictive for that drug. So the same thing can happen here. So here is a small video clip for you. I have implanted the electrodes into the reward regions of the brain. It is just pressing the liver. Every time it presses the liver, small amount of current is entering into the brain. You have about 20 to 30 microamperes of current. It's activating that particular neural circuitry which is responsible for your addiction. When you smoke, when you drink, when you take an alcohol, when you have a food, when you have a sex, you have the same region is going to get activated. It activates differentially depending on which drug you are going to take. That can bring about an alteration in the neural circuitry, something like this. You have an abnormal formation of the neural circuitry. Why an individual, once he or she is addicted to a particular drug, it becomes extremely difficult to come out of that, is mainly because of this. You have an abnormal neural circuitry is formed. It's a kind of a progressive plasticity. That can be used, that these kind of stimulations can be used to treat various disorders including the Parkinson's disease. So every year about 100 to 150 surgeries are performed at NIMHANS for treating the Parkinson's disease, paralysis. Okay. So they are not responding to the drugs. Do a surgery, put the small wire into it and you take that wire, keep a battery, it is kept there and then it will keep discharging the electrical activity. Thereby, you are restoring your abnormal brain activity, including the motor dysfunction. So one could use that as a tool. But it becomes practically difficult for everybody to bring, and ethically it is not possible to bring all of them and do a surgery and stimulate the brain regions. That means we need to develop some kind of a novel treatment strategies in which you create a wonderful environment so that all the students will attend regularly to the class. Maybe after the class, if I give a chocolate, attendance will increase, and parallelly their learning will also increase. There is called as a forcible learning. So you drive them to learn something. All of that is possible. And one such thing which I have designed many years back, and now many laboratories are using, is called as the enriched environment. I call it as a rat version of Disney World. It's like, when you go to the Disney World and you are so exploratory, you will look into everything and you want to learn many things, you want to buy many things, even though you don't have a money. And all this is possible. So such kind of a Disney World kind of a situation is used as a tool for neurorehabilitation. People who are suffering from a stroke, you give them a physical activity, you give a good environment, there is a recovery which happens. The individuals who are suffering from psychiatric disorders, including major depression or schizophrenia, you need to create a good environment, good family environment that is beneficial for recovery of the processes. All these are all the strategies. I will not go into the details of them, and it is possible that you could restore those abnormal brain circuitries in the brain as well. And then ultimately one has to look for the targets. Can I take a small pill of a drug every day morning? Will that help in terms of reducing my anxiety, reducing my depressive symptoms when I go to the class, when I go to the workplace, when I work at family? So we need to develop the drugs. So many of the drugs, such kind of a drugs has been developed by us to treat the anxiety, depression and the schizophrenic conditions. I will not go into the details. And what is most important is that, and if the stress is persistent for long period and if you don't take care of that, then that becomes a disease condition where you have the anxiety. There is an anxiogenesis. Those individuals, it becomes anxiety. And if you don't treat the anxiety, then what happens, you will lead into the depression. You see, all of us, we think that what is so big deal about the environment? Whom should I choose as a good friend or a bad friend? He determines your life, your existence. The whole existence of you and your contribution to the society is determined by your environment. One person will change your life. Okay. So if you really don't take care, you will lead into this state, depressive state. And it becomes extremely important that if you don't take care, then your brain is more susceptible for various other diseases. Once you are having a depression, you get into the schizophrenia, suicidal tendencies, then you die. You end your life. So the whole purpose of your existence in this world is not met by you. If you commit a suicide, it's not going to help anybody. So you are driven by your brain that your existence is no longer helpful to the society. Please die. That means who has driven you is your environment. In some cases it's a biological in nature that need to be treated. The therapy is required for that. And also it is becoming very extremely important that can we stay away from all these stressful situations. That's what is extremely important. You have a bad friend, he or he drives for the bad events every day. Better thing is stay away from him. Say goodbye to his friendship and say you make a good friend. That is extremely important. Such kind of reconnection and rewiring happens in your brain all the time. It's easy to accept the things, good things. And also it's extremely easy to accept the bad things as well. So you should know what is good and what is bad. That's why you have to listen to your world, external world, that determines. One could prevent it, and I will not go into the details of that. If those individuals who are with a good environment, there is a more activity and more regions of the brain has been recruited and used, those individuals, the susceptibility for various brain disorders significantly reduces. So that means the activity of your brain proportionately determines the well-being, your behavior. Okay, that's extremely important. And also, it's not that only in the hippocampus region you have the greater plasticity. There are few regions of the brain you do have the plasticity. And one such region is the frontal cortex. I told you, the different cortical regions which determines the different behaviors. Okay. Each one of the behaviors are determined by the cortex. Okay. What you see here is the cerebral cortex. And one such cortex is this one, it's the medial prefrontal cortex. They're all in different species. One could restore the activity of the brain activity as well. And also, if the brain activity decreases as a process of normal aging, now what is happening is you are accentuating the aging. Some individuals who are stressed for long periods, their heart functions, the cardiac dysfunctions are noticed, the respiratory dysfunctions are noticed, you have the kidney functions are compromised, your neuroendocrine regulations are compromised, and your ability to cope up with the stress is compromised. All of that will drive you into the disease conditions, something like premature aging. We are supposed to age at 60 years. Now, most of us, because of our stressful situation, we age by 40. It's called as premature aging. I look extremely healthy. The body looks extremely healthy, but your brain is not healthy. Because the degeneration has already triggered. So, it's extremely important. All of those aspects we have studied and we developed various drugs for treating. And most importantly, it's all use dependent. It's all use dependent plasticity. How much you use your different regions of your body, accordingly that much area is occupied in the brain. It's all use dependent plasticity. So it's something like this. You have this finger, this is in monkey, the third digit, the third finger is cut. So what it is doing? The fourth and the second finger territory is expanded. You have an empty site between two houses. What you will do? All the garbage of both the houses are poured there. And if nobody is asking anything, you will extend your territory. Put a small shed. After that you construct a building. That's what the brain does. It's all use dependent plasticity. If you don't use it, then somebody else is waiting to snatch that area. The same thing happens. You might have seen an amputated hand or amputated fingers. They are so efficient to use the other fingers, remaining fingers. Why does this happen? You have the rewiring or remapping of the brain circuitry. It happens in a large scale. All of this means what? All these plasticity mechanisms, rewiring, remodeling, it translates into what? Why we have to study all this? The basic scientists, biologists, then we look into the brain disorders. Ultimately, we should help to recover the brain functions in disease conditions. So one such condition where you have a whole lot of the cortical regions, there is a hypofunctioning, there is a less functioning. That is what is noticed in mental retardation children, the autistic children. Certain regions there is more activity, certain regions there is less activity, and one could develop some kind of a strategy to keep the optimal functioning of most of the brain regions. This we have developed some kind of a microchips which can be just kept on the surface of the cerebral cortex in the mentally retarded children. It will be keep sending some signals, thereby activating the abnormal circuitries in the brain, thereby facilitating the recovery of the abnormal activity of the mentally retarded children. So I started with the stress, saying that the brain can be modulated. Now you see there is an application of that for treating a complex brain disorders like mental retardation or autism and many other disorders. These are all developmental disorders. Look at here, this is a normal development. You have a microcephaly, a small head, small brain. All this can be corrected. Look at here, this is a normal one. There is no much development. One side is developed and the other side is not developed. All of these are the abnormalities of the brain. But one could use different strategies of inducing the plasticity for recovery of functions, including the meditation and other things. We will not go into the details of that. Let me summarize here. The chronic stress is bad. If you don't treat, it will lead to anxiety. It can drive you into depression, and it can make you to age early, and it can damage the brain, and it can make you to have several neurodegenerative disorders, including the susceptibility for the fits, epilepsy. Most of the diseases, brain disorders or the body disorders, the cause is the stress. We know that what makes us to be susceptible for brain disorders and also to the body disorders. Better we take care of that as early as possible. And this is what is most important. Human beings and all other primates, we are all social animals. Our survival is determined based on the environment, based on the interaction between one individual to the other individual. It may be your family, it may be your teachers, it may be your colleagues, or it may be your workplace. Look at here, there is an harmony. He is feeding, he is also taking care of him. This guy is the dominant male, he guards the family. So you have a social network. This network is becoming very less and less. Husband stays somewhere, wife stays somewhere, the kids are abandoned in some crash or some other place for our survival. You don't have the normal development of the brain that translates into different disease conditions. The next question many people have asked me is that whatever you study in the animals can be translated into the humans. But here, each and every behavior which has been performed by our cousins, each one of us, we have the different states of our mind and different states of our behavior. This clearly indicates that what we study in laboratories, what we study with the lower species, so it may be Drosophila, it may be fish, it may be even cockroach, or it may be even monkeys or rats, everything translates because you have a significant amount of conservation of our behaviors and the genes by the nature. So what you study in your zoology laboratory, what you study in your psychology, when you go to the epidemiological studies, everything translates into our behavior. Message for you is that there is no difference between your brain, my brain and Einstein's brain or your teacher's brain. All brains, the chemistry is the same, but the way the connections are established are different. The message is that just use it. The brain is there. The nature has gifted, your parents have gifted the brain, wonderful brain. but you should try to use them maximally as possible. Then you become a wonderful guide. Otherwise, it's difficult. Thank you very much for your patient hearing, and I will take your time.
Thank you, Professor Rao, for a most interesting talk on the ever-changing brain. So, Professor Rao will answer some questions, if there are any. So could I invite some questions, please? There's a question there. Yes? Please identify yourself and then ask the question.